The good works he performed are myriad. When he was young, he inherited much wealth from his parents, even as a man living near him lost all of his, their father being destitute and unable to pay their dowries. It was rumored this man's 3 daughters would have to be sold as slaves or go into prostitution. The young Nicholas, therefore, visited the home of the desperate family and dropped a bag of coins through a window, which some say landed in a shoe or sock, which originates the Christmas tradition of leaving gifts in stockings. The next morning, the family rejoiced, and seeing that they spent the money well, Nicholas returned again the next night, and the one after that, leaving 2 more bags so that all 3 sisters could marry. On the 3rd night, however, and despite his desire to remain anonymous, the father, who had stayed up to catch his unknown patron in the act, found out who it was, whereafter he spread the tale. Simon the Metaphrast recounts how, after becoming Bishop of Myra, Nicholas discovered a demonic stronghold in his realm. Perhaps some villagers complained to the saint that there was a trail leading through the woods all were forced to avoid, for terrible voices were heard coming from one of its cypresses. It seems blood sacrifices had been carried out there in earlier times, so that the tree, which is to say the evil entities haunting it, had grown hungry, and were now angry that the Christian population of the area refused any longer to feed them. St. Nicholas went to this place and, brandishing an axe, exorcised the frightened demons that possessed the cypress tree. Thereafter, free of unclean spirits and severed from its old blood-stained roots, that evergreen served as an image of the tree of eternal life and of the cross. Here, then, is the first Christmas tree. Soon after, Nicholas also exorcised a nearby well, so that both the trees that grow above and the water that pools below were now pure. So much for gifts in stockings and Christmas trees, but there are plenty more neglected traditions. We have, for example, the account of 3 generals sent to put down a revolt in Phrygia. On their way, they stopped at Myra to avoid strong winds, where they met Nicholas. Their soldiers took the occasion to buy supplies in the city, whereupon a group of criminals likewise seized on the opportunity, impersonating foreign soldiers in order to loot with impunity before fleeing. 3 innocent members of the military company were arrested for the robberies. Despite evidence that these were not the perpetrators, the prefect of the area, called Eustathios, accepted bribes from the guilty parties in return for going ahead with the executions. St. Nicholas, however, knowing of the intrigue, took the generals with him at the hour when their men were to be put to death, and brought the affair to a halt, grabbing the executioner's sword and accusing the prefect, who confessed to his corruption. The holy bishop pardoned him after the 3 innocents had been likewise pardoned. After this, the generals, whose names were Nepotianus, Ursus, and Eupolianus, pressed forward on their mission, successfully ending the Phrygian revolt, whereupon they were honored by Emperor Constantine himself. This, however, made their commander jealous, so he bribed a prefect by the name of Ablabius to tell the emperor that the 3 had plotted against him, causing them to be imprisoned and sentenced to death, facing the lashes of greed and corruption, like their men before them. But remembering how Nicholas of Myra had been able to turn the tide of injustice, they prayed so that God would allow this servant of his to come to their aid. Soon after, St. Nicholas appeared to Constantine in a dream. The emperor had the men brought to him to explain the phenomenon, and they assured him they knew no magic, but that this was an honest and holy man who had visited him. Nicholas likewise manifested to Ablabius and had him declare the generals innocent. Constantine sent them home with great wealth, which they gave away to the poor, along with a golden gospel and candelabra. They hurriedly went to thank the saint, who told them to thank God instead. Nicholas then tends to intercede for people in threes. Indeed, a later story, not part of the original accounts, tells of how an evil butcher, looking for tender meat to sell, made off with 3 infants and dismembered them. But Nicholas, learning of this horror, retrieved the pieces and put them together, whereupon divine grace resurrected the children. Such are the many symbols of the Saint Nicholas Christmas saga. The 3 sisters, 3 innocent soldiers, 3 centurions, 3 children, and centuries later, 3 ships from Italy that transported the saint's body. Ever the work of charity and the humility of one who told those he advocated for not to thank him, but God.